What weight, Conor, are you going to do? I'm going to do 170, as you know. I'm a big boy, a lot bigger than before. Okay, well, we're going to offer you this opponent. Yes, no problem, I accept. Day after day after day. No problem, we'll send the contract. Excellent, it's a great matchup, that's a great matchup, that's a great matchup. That's all you ever hear about out of me. And no contract came. And that's kind of where I'm at. Still here in this limbo. I know my manager is out there in Las Vegas on Monday, face-to-face meeting. I hope a respectable offer comes through. I'm notoriously good to deal with. I'm an honest man. I admire fairness. I'm sure we can get it done. And there you go. I assume the vibes I'm getting, and I don't mind it at all, is the BMF contest, which was on this week, a rematch between Holloway and Oliveira. Maybe it's me and that for the next one. So we will see. You know, it's all taken shape.
Was as the fight progressed into the later rounds, could Max Holloway find a way to get a finish, because he clearly needed one? The answer to that, of course, was no. Charles Oliveira, Dude Bronx, is the BMF champion of the world, and he made it look easy.
That was complete domination, Michael. I thought coming into this fight, there was going to be moments where Max was in trouble, moments where he might be on the fence, might be on his back, but I didn't think it was going to be 25 minutes. We've never seen Max dominated like that. Charles looked possessed out there. He walked Max down, got his back to the fence, and with these awkward takedowns, it wasn't fundamental traditional wrestling. He just powered him to the ground with hip tosses, body locks, and Max had no answer for the takedowns.
Yeah, and it's one of the things we talked about leading up to this fight, and Charles just executed all the X's and O's that we said that he would need to do in order to become the BMF champion tonight. He did all those things. He marched forward. He landed the more significant, powerful strikes throughout the fight. He was aggressive like we knew he would need to do, and that strength was on display.
The gate tonight was $8.3 million. Attendance 19,480. It was sold out. 4 performance of the night bonuses: Bellato, Montez, Rodriguez, and Dober.
Dana, dominant work from Charles Oliveira, but maybe not exactly the fight the crowd was anticipating or looking for. What were your thoughts on the way the main event played?
I don't know if anybody was expecting that. I mean, the way he body locked him and took him down so easily and absolutely dominated him on the ground. I thought there'd be a lot more stand up, and I thought that Max would do a better job at defending the takedown. And if he got on the ground, he'd at least pop up a couple, 3 times during the round, but total domination.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the goal of the sport is to win fights, right? But when it's a BMF title fight, do you feel like there's a unwritten rule that you got to fight a little bit differently, that you got to make it a stand-up war and not have a grappling-based approach?
Well, I think you'll have those type of guys, but the goal at the end of the day in every fight is to win. So he did exactly what he needed to do to win. And I think probably, you'll have to ask Max, but in training camp, they're probably expecting, if you've seen Charles fight, he's not afraid to go toe-to-toe, stand up, and, they obviously really believed that if they took him down to the ground, tonight would happen.
Bro, I got 10 text messages going. That tells you how great Ilya Topuria is. Because he went through him
like a knife through butter. I mean, we're talking about a generational talent in that guy. I mean, I love the fact that Oliveira called for a fight at the White House. Please find the man a dance partner. Yeah. But who?
I don't know who.
But who? Well, who other than Topuria, right? Topuria is busy with Gaethje.
Yeah.
Who?
Well, right. Arman Tsarukyan is not going to fight him in a rematch.
Arman would not fight him for the second time. Why?
Well, he would if they gave it to him.
Well, when you seem to be about to get a title fight, why fight this dude?
Yeah. Well,
because it's a BMF title fight. But I mean, could you really set that up? I mean, Tsarukyan's been out for so long. It's been so much controversy around him. He just got in a brawl at a wrestling match.
He's crazy,
he's a crazy man.
Sometimes, I ask you about Conor McGregor, and it doesn't happen, but it does seem like the situation is there, that it's possible. Is that something that is even on your mind? Do you think about that? What is your reaction to even just the name Conor McGregor when he throws out there BMF, 170 pounds? Is that even on your radar on a night like this?
For real, I want the title. I want that lightweight belt, and that's what I want. Listen, I did what I needed to do. I got it. That's what I want to do, and I tell people this. Let Diego figure this out, okay? But if it's maybe for something or maybe for the money, we'll do it. I think he wants it more than I do right now, doesn't he?
That was complete domination, Michael. I thought coming into this fight, there was going to be moments where Max was in trouble, moments where he might be on the fence, might be on his back, but I didn't think it was going to be 25 minutes. We've never seen Max dominated like that. Charles looked possessed out there. He walked Max down, got his back to the fence, and with these awkward takedowns, it wasn't fundamental traditional wrestling. He just powered him to the ground with hip tosses, body locks, and Max had no answer for the takedowns.
Oliveira dominates Max Holloway by decision. Not the most fun fight to watch. For the first, here's what I'll say about this. A lot of people are saying, why aren't you crashing out the way you were against Chimaev and Makhachev? Because JDM's one of my favorite fighters. Duplessis is one of my favorite fighters. So seeing it happen to them hurt more. I also think Oliveira's wasn't as bad as theirs. At all. Because for the first 2 rounds, he was fucking destroying Holloway on the ground. Out grappling him into every spot, get into positions where he nearly had the rear naked choke on so many occasions, nearly had the arm triangle at one point on Holloway, smashing him with elbows from top position, smashing him with elbows from the back as well. Like, he really did go for like a lot of damage in the first 2 rounds, but in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, you were thinking to yourself, this is for the BMF belt, and you're laying there in half guard on top. Damage him, you know? So I'll see both. I'll see both of this. Even though I was correct, Holloway can't grapple.
Looking at this collection of expert predictions for the Holloway versus Oliveira battle, one thing becomes crystal clear. The MMA world was completely torn on how this stylistic matchup would unfold when these 2 elite fighters stepped into the octagon.
Okay, so the game plan for Max Holloway is going to not allow himself to be pushed up against the fence. If you saw the co-main event last week with Marlon Vera and Daniel Martinez, Marlon was trying to swing, but Martinez was using beautiful footwork to kind of avoid those swarms and those bombs from Chito Vera, right? Of course, Chito cut the cage off in the 3rd round and was able to do some damage, right? That's what Charles Oliveira is going to have to do here, because Max Holloway isn't going to be running. Because he's not that type of guy. He believes in himself, but he will cut angles, he will use educated and intelligent footwork, and he will stay out of harm's way. Charles Oliveira wants to walk forward with a blitz and then get a hold of you with a body lock, drag you down, jump on your back, get a takedown, single leg, whatever it is. And then from there, he goes to work, and you're in his world. And that's...
Michael Bisping had his take locked in early. The former champion was convinced that everything would come down to positioning and cage control. His analysis focused on Holloway needing to stay mobile and use angles to avoid getting trapped against the fence where Oliveira could unleash his world-class grappling arsenal. Bisping saw the path to victory for the Brazilian running straight through takedowns and ground control, but ultimately backed Holloway's superior striking to break down his opponent around round 4.
Doesn't matter who you are. Max Holloway can defend the submission. Of course he can. Max Holloway can do submissions as well. And I'm not saying that Max Holloway can't drop him and get a rear naked choke like George St. Pierre did to me, right? When you get dropped, your equilibrium is rocked and you don't know what's going on. However, I do think that Charles Oliveira will struggle. I do think Max Holloway is the better puncher. I do think he has faster hands. I think he has better striking in general, better ringsmanship, better craftsmanship, better understanding of the geography inside the octagon, and the straight shots that Max predominantly throws will keep Charles Oliveira at bay, and Max Holloway will slowly start to take over the longer the fight goes. So I got Max Holloway getting a stoppage around round.
Taking the opposite approach, Chael Sonnen made a surprising choice that went against his usual pattern. Even though he'd rarely picked Oliveira before and almost never bet against Holloway, he saw something others missed. Sonnen believed the wrestling factor would be the game changer that nobody wanted to acknowledge. His theory was simple but smart. Oliveira didn't need to stand and trade for 25 minutes. Just a few well-placed takedowns could control rounds and steal the victory.
Charles Oliveira. The first time in my distinguished career of putting the hex on somebody, I'm putting it on Charles. I have never picked Charles Oliveira in a fight, ever. I have never picked against Max. And how is Charles going to do it? Let me tell you one thing that nobody's considering. Look, if you end up stuck on your feet with Max Holloway for 25 minutes, that is going to be miserable. But Charles doesn't have to. And let's just say it does turn into a grappling contest. If Charles gets on top of Max, Charles is likely to have some good minutes. He's likely to be able to keep him there. And I don't think that this is a ground and pound situation or this turns into a big ground contest. If he can just steal, right, in 5 rounds, if he can steal 3 takedowns, he can win those rounds, likely.
Tim Welch gave Oliveira plenty of credit for his dangerous guard work and entertaining fighting style, but when decision time came, he went with Holloway's championship experience and proven ability to maintain activity over long fights. Welch saw the Hawaiian's mental toughness and ring generalship as the deciding factors that would carry him through any dangerous moments.
There's to watch. This dude's my favorite fighter to watch. Fucking sick. One of the best jiu-jitsu guards in the game. He's been around for a long ass time. Been in the UFC since 2010, 16 years been in the UFC. Taking on Max Bless, another one who's been in the UFC. This is a good BMF fight. Max Bless got in the UFC when he was 4-0. He had four professional wins. He was back in the UFC. He made his debut against Dustin Poirier. UFC 143 when Nick Diaz fought Carlos Condit, for the real OGs that know it out there. When he made his debut. We got 2 vets going at it, 5 rounds. I think Max Bless get it done. Max Bless is so good at winning these 5-round fights. He's so good at staying busy from the outside. He's so good at pacing himself for 5 rounds. His fight IQ is so good when he hurts people. He doesn't throw all his chips in.
Tom Aspinall had a different angle altogether. He acknowledged Holloway's technical striking advantage, but pointed to something crucial that others overlooked. Oliveira's striking had evolved significantly, and more importantly, his mentality had strengthened after capturing and defending the title. Aspinall mapped out a specific timeline where Holloway would win the early rounds before Oliveira took over in round 3 with a submission finish.
I think that Holloway's a little bit of a better striker. That being said, I think Oliveira's striking has improved a lot, and he's something that I think he's done is his mentality has improved a lot over the years. I think now he's much more willing to exchange. The thing is, Oliveira is much more dangerous on the ground. I think this fight will end up in a couple of grappling exchanges, and I think that Oliveira will win the grappling exchanges. So in my opinion, I think right now,
going all in on the Brazilian MMA guru wasn't swayed by popular opinion. He compared recent performances and highlighted Oliveira's dominant finish over peak Justin Gaethje as evidence of his ability against elite competition. Guru believed Oliveira could absorb early damage and march forward with fight-breaking pressure that would eventually overwhelm his opponent.
I think Oliveira's going to take a little bit of a beating first, get peppered a little bit with some punches, but then sooner or later he's going to walk him down. He's going to get him to the floor and he's going to submit him in round 3. My verdict is Oliveira submission round.
Israel Adesanya brought his striking expertise to the analysis, emphasizing Holloway's record-setting volume and relentless pace. The former champion saw patterns repeating themselves, with Holloway's precision and constant pressure eventually breaking down opponents through accumulated damage over 5 full rounds.
I've got Charles du frickin' Bronx. That's what I've got. I've got Charles du Bronx over Max Holloway. And I understand how the Holloway picks arise. Okay, because I feel like I'm alone on this Oliveira hill that I'm going for here. But I think Oliveira is going to be able to take the shots from Holloway and walk through him. I do. I know Holloway's improved on his power. And in round 3 against a Korean zombie who was really old and past his prime, to say the very least, and in his retirement fight, Holloway.
Demetrius Johnson provided a nuanced breakdown that considered multiple angles. The flyweight legend noted Holloway's improved strength at lightweight and incredible durability, having only been stopped once in his entire career. Johnson stressed the importance of Holloway staying smart in grappling exchanges while using his range control to dictate the fight.
I do see in a world where Holloway just peppers him up and Oliveira starts to break, and we can see Holloway, Holloway took Topuria to the 3rd, and Topuria finished Oliveira in the 1st. I just don't think Max has that power. I do think he has more power at 155, and he did hurt and wobble Poirier early and drop him. I just don't think he's going to finish Oliveira early, and I don't think he's going to have enough power to get that much respect from Oliveira early. Oliveira is very hittable early. People are playing the Gamrot fight, right? I've seen a lot of clips of the Gamrot fight where he's walking forward and Gamrot's stinging him. But Oliveira does fight differently.
Henry Cejudo recognized the growth both fighters had shown throughout their careers, particularly praising Oliveira's striking improvements. Still, he gave the edge to Holloway's fundamental soundness and tactical awareness, believing his experience on the biggest stages would prove decisive in crucial moments.
We'll stick back to the faves, back to the faves on this one. I'm gonna go Max, and 5 rounds. I don't think Dupront's gonna fold or get tired.
Look at the significant strikes level per minute. 7.2. Jesus Christ, one of the highest I've seen.
You don't stop.
But he's got the most strikes in the UFC history.
Yeah, you don't stop. So I think it's gonna be Max. How he wins? Yeah, I don't want to say it. I don't want to see it. But I just sometimes, like when I watch this, I don't know how to explain it, how I see it in my head to people. So this is why I have to break it down with layman's terms. And I don't want to sound repetitive, because a lot of this is repetitive stuff. Like with fighting, we're using the same systems when it comes to jiu-jitsu, wrestling, kickboxing, boxing, to fights. There's only so much that can be done. Well, it's infinite, but there's certain patterns that repeat themselves. They're recurring patterns in this game constantly. So when I see a fight like this, I can just look at it and just like, and I just look at silhouettes of them or their fighting styles, and I kind of just piece it together in my mind. And
Dan Hardy offered perhaps the most detailed timeline prediction. He expected Oliveira to come out aggressive early, but believed Holloway would find his rhythm around the 7 to 8 minute mark. Hardy predicted a progressive shift in momentum that would lead to a late stoppage victory for Holloway, estimating his finishing chances would increase dramatically in the championship rounds.
He's got to be careful, because once he clinches, his hips are close, and Charles Oliveira can lock a body lock, a step deep, and double on his thing. He's boxing, and then Charles comes in to try to shut it down. Max either keeps the range and keeps boxing, or he closes in, forces Charles Oliveira to make a bad decision, lands a knee, hurts him, he goes to his back, and then he has to side there. So with all that, I got the turkey, I got the yams, I got the corn on the cob, I got the collard greens, all put in front of you guys. Now, when we look at that, who do I have winning in the main event against Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway? I'm going to have to go with Max Holloway. I think Max is in his new weight class at 155. I think he's strong here. I think he's healthy. He's only been knocked out one time in his career, and that was by Ilia Topuria, which Ilia Topuria put both these guys to sleep. And Charles doesn't fight like Ilia. You know, Ilia's able to get their position and bop bop and hit, where Charles likes to walk up high. I'm edging my...
Now that we've seen how this fascinating stylistic puzzle actually played out inside the octagon, which expert came closest to cracking the code? Did the grappling factor prove decisive as some predicted, or did the striking game determine the outcome? The divide in expert opinion shows just how evenly matched match these two warriors truly were on paper.
But I mean, Max Holloway has gotten better. He went out to become champion. Charles Oliveira has too. He was able to avenge that loss to Poirier as well. I mean, this is stylistically, it's a matchup of guys that have gotten better. In particular, I think if there's one person that I feel like has gotten better more than the other, I say Charles Oliveira. But that still doesn't mean that Max cannot beat him. I still give the edge to Max Holloway in this fight because, because he's so basic. He's a 1-2 guy. And I think that's one of the problems that I have with Oliveira in the past is just he doesn't have the ability to adjust. And hearing some of his interviews saying, hey, if he points down, let's go, I live for that. But you don't want to do things tactically. I just don't know if Charles Oliveira is as tactical as a guy like